Hey yo, this is Dash, and unfortunately my voice isn't the greatest right now. Feeling still, well not still, but a little under the weather. My wife was sick and now she got me sick. So, in case you don't know, this is Bessie. Vicky's back there. I'm gonna move Vicky to where Bessie is, and I have to cook today. So, honestly enough, I've been trying to shoot this same video 3 or 4 times, and typically something happens. I get sidetracked and I forget to finish it. So I've started this video 3 or 4 times, and today is Friday, April 1st, 2016. So it's not an April Fool's joke or whatever, but I will finish this video and walk you through some of the things that I've been doing, some of the things that have been done with Vicky. Okay, I've named the vertical smoker Vicky. I mean, we all know Vicky, and she treats me like one of the Vickies that I know. So, I'm going to use Vicky today, show you a few things that I've done as far as modifying Vicky to work the way that I needed her to work. Unfortunately, I still have not been able to get wood to be able to burn in Vicky properly. It seems like it's still not getting enough air, unfortunately. I have been using Vicky. I think I've probably put 5 or 6 fires through Vicky, or 5 or 6 cooks through Vicky, and each time I've used charcoal. The one time I tried to say, I said, all right, you know what? I got a new load of wood. All of those things were taken care of. Boom, let's go ahead and get a wood fire burning in, and it just didn't work. It was a dirty fire, and I ended up having to, at like midnight, I ended up having to take the logs that were in there half burnt and or unburnt out and convert it from using wood to build a charcoal fire in the smoker. It was not a good time. It added like an extra hour and a half to my cook. So nonetheless, those problems with that, the one problem aside, using Vicky with charcoal has been the absolute greatest. I can start the fire, start my charcoal, put the charcoal into the basket, get it going, season my meat, come back out, load up the smoker, and I won't say set it and forget it, because I still do monitor the temperatures, but I don't have to stay on top of it as much as when I use Bessie and I'm feeding Bessie, 1 or 2 sticks an hour or so. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to get my charcoal chimney and get my charcoal going, and I will see you guys when I get to the point where I'm going to load the basket for Vicky. I have to do some, like I said, I have to move some things around, move Bessie out the way, move Bessie over here, and bring Vicky from over there and put her up in here so she's over that window. And I thought about cooking over here or over here today, but the problem is the window. I can watch the steam and the smoke from in the house because that window points towards the house. So that's why I'm gonna put it back there. Okay, so now that I have my charcoal chimney started and Bessie is out of the way, Vicky's where she needs to be, here's a couple things that I have learned by using the smoker a few times. I'm going to be using all 4 racks today. I have 3 briskets and a leg of lamb that I'm going to be cooking. So I'm going to be using all 4 racks today. And as far as some of the things that I've learned to do over time, so I just swept out, kind of roughly, I swept out the ash from in here. I found that if I leave some ash on the floor, I have a pretty decent cement floor in here. It's not the best, but it cleans up. Like, I sweep it out almost every single time I'm in here because I make a huge mess on the floor. Like, I just split up a piece of apple wood. Speaking of which, here is what I'm going to be using for my smoke today. Apple wood. I have a couple apple trees, and pieces of the limbs or pieces of the tree were dead. So I had somebody, the guy that I get my wood from, he came out and trimmed the trees for me, and he was nice enough to leave me some of the bigger pieces of wood. So I split one, and I'll show you how I load up the charcoal basket. But what I was saying was, I put ash on the floor because it helps reduce, like there, that spot there. That's kind of where barbecue sauce and grease from things that I'm cooking has kind of hit the floor and it's stained the floor. When I have ash on the floor, it falls into that, the ash absorbs it, and it doesn't make as big of a mess, and I can just sweep it right out to the end of the driveway. Okay, so now, this is the basket that I made with Kirk. But what you can't see is I have a piece of expanded down in there. The piece of expanded, what it does is it helps to focus the charcoal, and in focusing the charcoal, it makes it hotter, and it doesn't burn longer, but it makes it hotter, so the heat stays a little longer. So what I typically do is I'll put a layer of charcoal down at the bottom, I'll put a couple pieces of wood in there, put more charcoal down at the bottom, and then I'll put another piece of wood on top, and then I'll take the charcoal from the chimney, pour that right on top, and then that'll go for 6-8 hours at least. And usually I'm not putting, now this is a bag of, alright, so it says 18.6 pounds of Kingsford. I prefer lump charcoal over Kingsford, but I found this Kingsford on sale, so I bought it. But yeah, so give me a second, I'll actually load the charcoal basket and show you what I do. Okay, so as you can see, I have the basket loaded, and there's a piece of wood on top, there's a piece of wood down in the bottom there, surrounded by charcoal. My chimney is almost where I need it to be, which is good because it's starting to rain. And maybe not, might take another 10-15 minutes for that, but we're getting there. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll lift this and put it I'll have it teetering on the edge. I'll lift that up and I'll have it teetering kind of on the edge here, so that it'll be sitting about here, and while it's sitting there I can bring the charcoal over and go ahead and boom, put the hot coals in there. I'm going to go ahead and fill up the water pan down at the bottom with water, and we'll go from there. Okay, so you see my fire, the flames are extending up past the top of the charcoal chimney, so I brought it inside. I have my basket here teetering on the edge, and that's it. I will use the welding glove to kind of spread some of the lit charcoals out and about or around, and usually it doesn't take too long. Ooh, that's hot. Sorry. And sometimes I might put a little bit more charcoal on top depending on if I really think that it needs it. I don't think it needs it today, so I'm gonna go ahead and push this inside. Push that inside. I'm gonna get the, actually I'm gonna open this up for a moment or so to help it draft. And I'm gonna get the chimney set up on the top. Once I get the chimney set up on the top, I'll go ahead and get everything seasoned in the house, and I'll be back. So before I go in the house, and I get questions also about what I use to clean the smoker out. This is a little scraper I bought for like $5, you know, less than $10 from Harbor Freight. It has a pretty nice metal edge on it, and it allows me to get all of the creosote and other, you know, things that are inside the smoker out. So I use this one for Vicky, and then I have a bigger one for Bessie, and I use them kind of in conjunction with each other because sometimes getting down into the nooks and crannies, I'll have to use this one. I honestly was using a garden hoe, and surprisingly enough, it worked very well until I broke it. See the duct tape down there? But I broke it scraping up in Bessie, trying to get some of that creosote and all that other gunk, you know, gunk, I don't know how else to call it, some of that stuff out of there. And you know, I'm pretty diligent about cleaning up the smokers, and so what I've since or started doing now at this point is I'll use the garden hoe to scrape up the floor, and I'll use the other two for cleaning inside the smokers. Seems like, you know, here's something that's kind of cool. Every now and again when the wind is blowing, like today is kind of windy, you saw the smoke coming out of the intake, and the whole thing is there's just enough air pushing in the whole thing backwards. Yep, I'm back out in the garage. So it's been just about an hour since I put the charcoal into the basket and put it all into the smoker. I have the damper on the smoker, the intake on the smoker wide open. It's showing 228 degrees inside, and you can kind of see what it's doing. So, I mean, it's still ramping up, honestly enough. And I'm trying to make sure you can see this. The charcoal is almost all about lit. What I'll do is I might add a couple pieces on top just to make sure I get to the temperature I need. And you see, because the door is open, it's starting to flame up. So I'll go ahead and close that for a second. I'm gonna get a little bit more charcoal, pour the charcoal on top, and then I'll go ahead and get the my food. So again, I have 3 brisket. There's one here, and there's 2 there, and then this is a huge leg of lamb. Usually I get the legs of lamb that I get are about 3.5 to 4 pounds. This is almost a 9-pound leg of lamb. So this is a whole leg of lamb, or at least an adult leg of lamb. I don't know. But briskets are about 14, 15 pounds, or they were before I trimmed them. And let's go ahead and get this thing loaded. So as promised, I have, that is a 8.5, almost 9-pound leg of lamb. There's a 15-pound brisket. I think this is another 14, 15-pound brisket. And this one was like a 13-pound brisket. So I get people that ask all the time about the capacity of the vertical smoker, and I don't have the exact dimensions, but a full catering pan will fit on each shelf. So, and then as you see, like basically right now or right here, I could fit 1 brisket on either shelf. Like I can probably squeeze 2 in there, but they will be maybe overlapping a little bit. But 1 brisket per shelf. If you have pork shoulder, you can probably fit 4 pork shoulder on each shelf. You might even be able to fit or you know, squeeze 6 in there on each shelf, but you might have to turn them like the long way as opposed to laying them with the fat up. You might have to lay like the fat vertically. I've gotten, I think I got like 30 wings on the top rack, and that was, you know, laying them pretty close together. And then I can get probably 3. I can get 3 with room. 4 again if they were kind of overlapped a little bit. Baby back ribs on each rack. So those are the primary things that I cook. When I cook salmon in here, I had 2 fillets in here on the same shelf. So you know, since I get capacity issues, or excuse me, capacity questions, I figured I'd try to answer those for you. And it's a little easier to see what the capacity is with food actually in the smoker. So you see the smoke is rolling a little thicker than I wanted to, but that's because I just put some more charcoal down in there, and that'll dissipate in a few moments. I'm gonna let this get back up to temperature, adjust my temperature probe. So as you see, I have the Maverick, you know, wireless thermometer, and I put it up on the top shelf because obviously I know that's where it's going to be warmest, and I can just adjust my cooking style or just, you know, let it take a little longer. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want the thing, whatever it is on the top shelf, to burn. So I'm most concerned about the temperature on the top shelf, especially when I have something on the top shelf. All right, so I will, I don't know if I'm gonna come back to this while it's cooking or not. Usually I don't, but if I do, you'll see more. If I don't, you know, here we go.